Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be making some fun Halloween cards using Scrapbook.com's Spooky Critters. Scrapbook.com recently released 4 new Spooky Critter die sets. Each of them features a different animal dressed up for Halloween, and they also have a sentiment. This first set is Ghost Cat, and it includes the sentiment, "Hey Boo." The next set is Mummy Bear, it's an adorable bear dressed up as a mummy, and it includes the sentiment, "Love you to death." Next we have Pumpkin Head. It includes the sentiment, "Trick or treat." And for all of the sentiments and the image, there's also a shadow outline piece. The last set is Witch Fox, and it includes the sentiment, "Happy Halloween." There's also a rub-on transfer set called Willow Lane, and it coordinates with their Willow Lane pattern paper. But if you'll notice, the very top row, those 4 critters all dressed up for Halloween, are the same critters on the 4 die sets. And one thing that's really fun, on all of the image die set, it includes the shadow piece for the critters, and that die is the exact same size for the rub-on images. I'll pull the shadow die out of the Witch Fox set, place it on the Witch Fox image of the rub-on. You can see it fits perfectly, and it'll cut out that nice border around the image. And the outline die for each of the 4 critter images works with that top row of critters on the rub-on sheet. Now this is optional. You can use the rub-ons and the dies without that shadow piece, but sometimes it's fun to have it. Helps that image stand out against the background. Now on the die set, there's also that second image piece, and this is what you'll use to build your critters. And I'll show you that here in a moment. We'll be building the Witch Fox together. So I've already gone ahead and die cut out all of the pieces. I've cut down the paper, and I have everything stored in Scrapbook.com's stack and sort trays. I have the die cut pieces in the smaller size and my card pieces in the larger size. And I love that you can stack the 2 trays together. The pattern paper I'm using for this card is Scrapbook.com's Spooky Collection. I love all of the pink in this collection. I will be adding a scallop frame around the critter, and I use Scrapbook.com's Nested Stitched Scallop Frames die set. This is currently not available, but it is in their coming soon section, and this is a really fun set to have. I'll set aside this stack and sort tray that has all of the fox die cut pieces, and we'll start by assembling the card. I use black cardstock for the frame, and I'm adding a piece of the solid pink pattern paper behind the frame. I cut it just a little bit smaller than that frame so it's not peeking out along the edge. I'll flip over the frame, put some clear double-sided adhesive tape on the back, and I'm using the 1/8 inch size. I'll remove the release paper, then add that solid pink pattern paper piece on the back side. And this pink and also that solid orange are from the Spooky Collection. You can see once I flip it over, it has a design on the back side. Across the center of the card, I'm adding the panel of orange solid pattern paper. And this piece is 1.5 inches by 4 inches. The adhesive I'm using is Scrapbook.com's Deluxe Adhesive Roller. This is super sticky. For the background of my card, using one of my favorite designs in the Spooky Collection, pink and orange pumpkins on a light pink paper. That piece is 4 inches by 5.25 inches, and I'll layer it on some black cardstock. And the cardstock layer is an additional 1/8 of an inch. So 4 1/8 inch by 5 3/8 inch. I'll put more adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 inch of the white card base showing. Now it's time to assemble the witch fox. I grabbed my cut down version of Scrapbook.com's silicone grip mat. I'll do all of the gluing on this, that way I don't get adhesive all over my workspace mat. I'm using Artis liquid glue. For the shadow piece, I cut that out from white cardstock. And for the background piece of the fox, I use brown cardstock. Now you can use any color cardstock for this piece, it will all be covered up. They provided it to make it easier to assemble the different critter images, since you have that guide piece. I decided to go with the same dark brown color that I'm using for most of the fox. And by using the brown color, it'll save me a couple of pieces, and I'll show you that here in a moment. Use that same color for the fox's head and a slightly lighter brown cardstock for the bottom portion of the fox's head. Glue those two pieces together. For the witch's hat and cape, I'm using the same orange pattern paper. I love the little striped pajamas for the fox, and I cut these out from some light gray cardstock. It has all of those little stripes embossed right on that piece. After adhering the cape and then the pajamas, you can see just a peek of the fox's hands and feet. And this is where you could cut those individual pieces and adhere them down. I decided to skip that part, but I did cut out the pieces so you could see what they look like. You would add those first and then put the pajamas on top. Before attaching the fox's head, I did put the front piece of the cape. Then I'll add the fox's head, and its chin will overlap that top portion of the cape in front. Now I'll adhere the witch's hat. Use black cardstock for the little stripe on the hat. Next are the teeny tiny pieces for the fox's eyes and nose. I'll first add a small drop of Artis glue, and I'm picking up those tiny die cut pieces using the wax tip end of Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. Since I'm using liquid glue, I have a little bit of time to get those pieces adjusted, and I'll just push those in place using my tweezers. You can see a tiny bit of the glue around the eyes right now, but the glue will dry clear. Next, I'll add the tie in front of the cape, and I used a slightly darker orange cardstock, and this was included in the Harvest Smooth cardstock paper pad from Scrapbook.com. The fox is holding a Halloween candy treat bag. You can see the little outline piece in the background. Before adhering the treat bag down, I was looking at the fox's hand that'll be holding the treat bag, and since the cape does overlap a little bit on that background piece, I did decide to add the individual front hand pieces or front paws of the fox. So I peeled up the sleeves of the pajamas and tucked those tiny die cut pieces underneath. Before adhering the candy treat bag, since there's all those other layers on the left side where the bag will be attached, I'm putting a small scrap piece of cardstock on the right side. Just glue that down, and I'll put glue on the back of the treat bag and adhere it in place. So now the little fox is happily holding its candy treat bag and all ready to go trick-or-treating. Next, I'll add my witch fox on the white outline piece. Just put Artis glue on the back and adhere it in place. I will put a large acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. Now I'll put away the silicone mat, grab my card. I haven't attached the scallop frame down yet. I want to figure out placement first so I have enough room at the bottom of the card to add the sentiment. I've already assembled the sentiment, Happy Halloween. And for the words, I use Scrapbook.com's Coming Soon Rainbow Glossy cardstock. I use the black color. This cardstock is so beautiful with the lovely shine. I use white cardstock for the shadow piece, and I cut out a second one from vellum. I glued the two pieces together, offsetting them slightly so there's a peek of the vellum underneath the sentiment and on the left side. On the back side of the sentiment, I'll add some foam dimension just behind the word Halloween. Since the word happy will be sitting on the scallop frame, I'll add a scrap piece of cardstock. Now I'll hold the sentiment up to the card so I can figure out placement. Put glue on the back of the scallop frame, adhere that down first. Now I'll put glue on the back of the witch fox and adhere it in the center of the scallop frame. Next I'll add the sentiment at the bottom of the scallop frame and underneath the witch fox. For embellishments, I'm adding some pretty pink jewels. This is the Ballet slipper color and the jewels are from Pink Fresh Studio. I'll dump out a small amount in the stack and sort tray. That way it's easier to select the different sizes. I'm using the wax tip end of the Craft Pro Pick tool to pick up the jewels, adding a small drop of Artis glue, then I'll press them in place. So there is my finished card. After recording this, I did use a white gel pen and added a highlight inside the fox's eyes. Using the same card design, I'm making a second card, this time featuring the Witch Fox Rub-On. And I also used the Willow Lane pattern paper. I'll remove the protective sheet from the back side of the rub-on, press it on some white cardstock, and I'm using the popsicle stick that's included in the rub-on pack to transfer the image onto the cardstock. It's a small image, it really doesn't take very long. Just slowly peel back the release paper to make sure the image has fully transferred. There was a tiny area of the pajamas that didn't transfer. I just lined it all back up again, used the popsicle stick, and now you can't tell that that little spot was missing. Now I'll use the outline die from the Witch Fox die set and cut out this rub-on image. I'll grab my Platinum Scout machine in the Rose Quartz color. And this is an exclusive color only available at scrapbook.com. I have the platform plates A and B, the acrylic plate C, and instead of using another acrylic plate, I'm using the Magic Mat from scrapbook.com that fits the Platinum Scout perfectly. Run it through the machine twice, and it cuts out this image beautifully. It's so fun to have the coordinating die to go around the rub-on image. I'll put Artis glue on the back, adhere the witch fox in the center of the scallop frame. For embellishments, I'm using more of the rub-ons. I selected 3 of the small black stars. I'll add 1 small star on the right side of the fox and the larger star and small star in the upper left-hand corner of the scallop frame. So there is my finished card, and here's the other version with the die cut image. I love having both options. The rub-ons make it super quick, but with the die set, you can use it again and again. Both are really fun options to have. For card design number 2, I'm using pattern paper from the Willow Lane collection. I have some white and yellow striped paper with stars and trees for the background. This piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. On the left side of the card, adding more pattern paper, sort of an orangish yellow distress looking design. This piece is 1 7/8 of an inch by 5 1/4 inches. Now I'll layer the background on the wood grain pattern paper from the same collection. And in the very center, I did cut out a piece, and that'll be the outline for the sentiment. Using the nested Octagons die set, I cut out 1 from vellum, 1 from brushed white pearlescent cardstock, and 2 from pattern paper from the Willow Lane collection. If you watched scrapbook.com's SBC Fest last weekend, this was one of the die sets that I used for my class. For the 2 pattern paper octagon pieces, these are the same size. I only cut out a small portion of the black distress pattern paper, then I used a pair of scissors and cut a little hillside. I'm creating a little scene for my critter image. Now I'll adhere the pattern paper octagon on the next size up, which I used the brushed white pearlescent cardstock. And instead of layering them together with the flat sides, I'm turning the pattern paper piece so you'll have a point at the very top, bottom, and right and left side. Then I'll layer the white octagon piece on the vellum, but this time I will layer them so those flat sides are all lined up together. I put glue on the back of the octagon layers, making sure only to add it behind the white octagon. That way the adhesive doesn't show through on the vellum. And I'll adhere the octagon more on the left side of the card. This card will feature the Ghost Cat rub-on image, and I've already transferred it on white cardstock and cut it out using the coordinating die. I did pop up the cat using the small foam squares from scrapbook.com in the 1mm thickness. For sentiment, I'm adding Hey Boo. For the outline piece, I'm using the brown wood grain pattern paper. If you remember, I did cut this out from that background piece. For the words, I did cut these out from pattern paper. It was a design that had lots of white ghosts. When cutting out the sentiment, I made sure to line up the dies in the areas that weren't on those white ghosts. There were some small white stars in the background, so you can see some of them on the sentiment. The word hey is all one piece, and the word boo has individual letters, but they're very easy to line up. I'll add the sentiment in the lower right-hand corner. Since part of the word hey will be sitting on those layers of octagons, I'll put some thin foam dimension behind that area. And behind the rest of the sentiment, I'm using the large foam squares from scrapbook.com, the 2mm thickness. The small foam squares are the 1mm thickness. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment in the lower right-hand corner. I cut out a few more images from the Rub-On Transfer Willow Lane collection. I have a bat I'll be adding on the right side and 2 black stars. In the upper left-hand corner, I'm cutting 2 small banners using more of the pattern paper. I'll first cut a fishtail on the bottom of each of the pattern paper pieces, and I'm using scrapbook.com's Ergonomic scissors. The banner with the light gray stars felt it needed to be a little bit shorter, so I'm holding the 2 pieces together and I'll trim off about 1/8 of an inch. And I'm saving that tiny piece that I just cut off of the other banner, and I'll adhere it on the left side before adding the larger banner down. That way it doesn't dip down when it goes off the edge of the pattern paper strip. Before adhering the smaller banner, I'll put a scrap piece of pattern paper on the right side. Then I'll put Artis glue on the back and adhere both banners in place. Now I'll add the rub-on images, and I'm just using the popsicle stick that's included with the rub-on pack. These are small images and very easy to transfer. Trying to decide placement for the bat. Gently apply pressure, slowly peel back that top piece, making sure the image has fully transferred. Now I'll add the 2 stars on the left side of the ghost cat. I think it adds just a little more detail to the nighttime scene. For embellishments, I'm adding some enamel dots from Concord and 9th. This is the Nutmeg color. I'll put 2 on the banners in the upper left-hand corner and 3 around the sentiment. And I'm using a variety of different sizes. So there is my finished card, and I did make a second card following this design, but the second card features the Ghost Cat die cut image, and the pattern paper is from scrapbook.com's Spooky collection. For embellishments, I used more of the Ballet slipper jewels from Pink Fresh Studio. It was so fun using the same images and designs, just one card featuring the die cut images and the other featuring the rub-on images. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.